Alive. Let me just quickly tweet out the links. Still annoying me that we need to get the premium account to do Twitter streams now. But I'm going to talk to Lewis about it, because obviously with the account, what we should do, what he thinks we should do.
Yeah.
But that, just give me 1 sec. Because then it gets easy to tweet out links, but now it's kind of like hard because what's it called? It's just on YouTube, so it's just not accessible. Like, it doesn't just pop up on your timeline. We have to show it to you. One second. Okay, all right, let's begin. Hello and welcome to another episode of Ringside Fracas. I'm your host Naeem, and today I'm joined again by Dapper. Dapper, how are you, bro?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Boxing's been kind of okay pace for now, because we haven't had really any big fights in a bit, but we're sort of ramping up towards a big fight, of course, with Crawford Madrimov right on the horizon next weekend to look forward to. But this weekend we've got some interesting fights to look forward to. But also, I think we also need to talk about last Saturday's fights, which I talked about on the previous pod last week, which was the Japanese boxing card that occurred. And one of the good things about Japanese boxing is that and that's where we're going to start, is that Japanese boxing has always been a good level of fighting, especially in their culture. It's embedded in their culture. Like, these guys will fight on a Tuesday night, they'll fight on a Monday night, they'll fight in their versions of York halls, and it will be packed out because people want to see it. And they've got their system of, how they promote their fighters, how they promote their shows. And also their boxing commission has a great way of sorting out how to make sure that fighters are fighting properly and they're not getting tune-ups or bums here or there, to make sure that the quality of talent coming through makes the product even better, basically. And on Saturday, I thought we had a brilliant card, because imagine this. For us, it started at 10 a.m. and it finished by 12:45. So for them, it was 6 o'clock start, 6 p.m., and it finished before 9 p.m. So these lot got to go home within time. Do you know what I mean? You imagine that, going to a boxing event at 6 p.m. and then being able to come home before 9:30 p.m.
Love it.
The pacing of it was perfect. There were four fights on it, and they all together lasted 13 rounds, which is insane. Like, there's just over one championship fight, and you had 2 world title fights on there, which is brilliant. But we'll get into one of the fights that I think we both watched, which was Tenshin Nasukawa taking on Jonathan Rodriguez. And now, for those of you that don't know, some of you will remember Tenshin was a kickboxer who's one of the best kickboxers on the planet, and he took on Floyd Mayweather in an exhibition in which he didn't really look the best. I mean, the guy started crying. He got knocked out within I think it was 1 or 2 rounds, or it was in the first round. Yeah. He was crying. It wasn't a great showing, and a lot of people, especially in the Western area, because they don't obviously know about Tenshin,
made fun of him.
it's hard to come back from. And from that, it's a hard reputation thing hit. But I think he's left kickboxing in 2022, and he left it as pound for pound number 1, that sport, and he's switched over to boxing, and he's had I think 4 fights right now, and in 4 fights, the way he's progressing is insane. I mean, like, we look at guys like, for example, and I know I kind of harp on about this, but you got guys like, for example, Ben Whittaker, who he's a Olympic silver medalist. He's been to the top of the amateur game, but yet we're yet to see him take on a proper test. Tenshin has none of that, but his experience comes from kickboxing. But in his 4th fight, he took on the number 4 ranked bantamweight in the world, which is, in your 4th professional fight, a big step up to take, and he stopped him within 3 rounds, which was a brilliant showing. He showed everything: his combinations, his poise, his precision. He just looked lethal in there, and all his kickboxing ability sort of came into boxing, where he managed to now fine-tune his hands, and he really does look a real deal. What was your takeaway from his fight when you watched it?
So before watching this fight, you'd informed me that so the last memory I have of Tenshin was fighting Mayweather. I hadn't seen him fight since, so I was really surprised about how good he actually looked watching that fight, and I just couldn't believe. I had to, even like before we started recording, I had to ask Naeem, like, what happened to him when he fought Mayweather, because they look like 2 complete different fighters. And I know Mayweather was incredible and he's one of the GOATs, etc. But even then, like, they look like 2 complete different fighters. Like, his poise, his combination, he's got power as well. Like, he's a really good fighter. From what I saw on this fight over the last couple of days. So yeah, no, he's really, really good. And I can't wait to see how far he can take it, because he has the potential to have a really, really decent story in boxing. Crossover. How many kickboxers do you know that successfully cross over from the sport and garner the kind of success? And obviously, fortunately for him, he's at a weight class that there's a lot of homegrown talent there in Japan. So he's in a very, very good place to make a statement for himself. And obviously, we have fighters like Inoue and some of both Inoue brothers, some of the other Japanese fighters who are sort of bringing the market up a bit now in Japan, and people are paying attention now more. So this is the perfect time to sort of grow his profile. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to his next fight. And like you said, the 4th ranked fighter in your 4th fight is insane. And that's such a good comparison, comparing a silver Olympic medalist like Ben Whittaker, who is how many fights in now? He's 10 fights in now, 10 professional fights in. And he's still fighting, very, very low level fighters, not in the top 10 in his weight class. And you have someone that's crossed over from kickboxing, which is, I know the name has boxing in its name, but they're completely different. Like, kickboxing and boxing are completely different. And to be having the kind of success he's having in the ring, it's quite incredible, actually.
Yeah, and the one thing he does have quite a bit was also he also has a star following, because he built himself up in kickboxing. Kickboxing is quite big, especially in the Asian regions. Kickboxing is a huge sport out there. I mean, you had guys like Israel Adesanya who built themselves up in kickboxing first before they transitioned over to MMA, and they were quite big stars in kickboxing, especially Alex Pereira, for example, as well. Names, just shouting out names that you guys might know. So he built himself up as a big star. If you go on his YouTube, the guy has like 1 million subscribers, which like for someone, you know, that's just starting out boxing, that's a perfect thing to have. The fact that you have 1 million subscribers, because you can always push your
It's
fights.
a great start. That's a great start.
Yeah, you can push your fights to such a big audience, and
Mm.
also on Twitter, he's got like 1 million followers as well. Um, but it's insane to see that he's come so far, that he looks the business. He's got the talent behind him. Also, when I was watching the fight, the ring walk, there's some guys that have that about them, where even in the ring walk they can play to the crowd, and they can really g up the crowd and get it behind him. And he looked like one of them. And there is that kind of trend that we're seeing, that Andrew pointed out, which was so Yoshiki Takai. I think he's the IBF, no, he's the WBA champion, yeah, or bantamweight champion. So same division, and he was a top level kickboxer, and he's only 9-0. So you've got this trend of two guys in the bantamweight division, Japanese guys who spent a lot of time kickboxing, then transitioned to boxing, and their skills have translated, and they haven't wasted a lot of time padding their records. To Yoshiki Takai, he's a world champion. He's only 9-0. Like, didn't waste any time with that already. He's a world champion. He beat Jason Maloney. It was Maloney. So it might be WBO actually. Let me just check. I don't want to get the thing messed up. Yeah, I think it was WBO rather than thing. But like I said, these guys aren't wasting any time. Like obviously, it's not like a amateur coming into boxing, and some guys will need a bit of yeah, he's a WBO champion. Some guys will need a bit of more fights to develop. Like for example, when you get onto like Moses Tama, for example, been at amateur level but hasn't been at the top level, so obviously he needs a bit more experience. He's not going to get to world level within 9 or 10 fights. But guys like Yoshiki Takai and Tenshin Nasukawa been top level kickboxing, so they know what it takes to be at that level. So they didn't waste any time there. They just went straight for it. They were, you know. But then you got guys, like I said, you got guys on the other hand like Ben Whittaker. And again, it seems like we're harping on about him, but he's not the only one. But it doesn't seem like we're going to see him fight even British level until like another couple, 5 or 6 or 7 more fights later. But we'll see with him. But it's brilliant. I mean, if you're someone who's looking for more boxing to watch, make sure you're tapping into Japanese boxing, because the entire bantamweight division, all the champions are Japanese, all of them, and they're really good fighters to watch. So I'd recommend you tune into them. And then guys like Tenshin, he's always going to put on a show. His fights are going to put on, you know, a lot of money, and it's going to get a lot of attention. So make sure that you're watching that. There was also Rico Kano versus Anthony Olasquaga. That was a good fight. It was a flyweight fight. One of the knockouts went viral because I don't know if you've seen it, but he punched the guard away, then threw a left hook and knocked him out. So that was a brilliant fight as well. So I would recommend you watch that. And then you got the guy that I want to come on to for a bit and give, you know, I want to give his flowers, Junta Nakatani. So he fought Vincent Astrolabio, who'd never been stopped before, but I kind of thought, you know what, Nakatani is probably going to stop him, break him down over. I thought he was going to break him down over like 7, 8 rounds and then take him out of there. First round, straight left to the body, bang. That was it. That was all she wrote. He couldn't get up from that, folded like a chair. And I was like, bro, what the hell? Like, Astrolabio is known for being a bit tough, but the way he looked in that ring, he looked like he looked like he got punched through like a paper bag.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, and Nakatani is scary because this is his 3rd weight division that he's a champion in, and he still looks like he could go up a couple more weight classes. I mean, that guy, if you don't know, I've been retweeting a lot of stuff on the account where from Steve Kim, and big up Steve Kim because he's been in America. So that's where Nakatani trains. So Nakatani trains at this gym, this training camp in America, I think Los Angeles, with Rudy Hernandez, the coach. Nakatani has been training there since he's 15. He's now 27, so he's been training there for 12 years. So the good thing about him fighting, obviously, in America is the fact that he'll get more good work out there. And also guys like Rudy Hernandez, it's been Steve Kim has actually gone about documenting it. So his tweets are all there, so you can have a look at it through the account. Rudy Hernandez really focuses on getting guys to turn their punches over. And with Junta Nakatani, if you look through his catalogue of fights, he really shows that. Remember that viral knockout I showed you on the Haney Lomachenko undercard where he knocked the Japanese guy, knocked the other guy out, and it seemed like the guy died.
Yeah, I remember
Like a
that.
shotgun. That, yeah. So these guys really have that emphasis of turning their punches over and using their body mechanics, being able to pivot their rear foot to make sure that then they push off of it, but then they can torque their hips and torque their shoulders, and then straight keep their elbows tight so they can get that straight punch into it. I mean, it's pure punching profile. That guy can punch, and you want to take advice. You look at guys. You look at the form of guys like Inoue, Nakatani, for example. Even Anthony Joshua when he throws a right hand, like that. The way that you look at the body mechanics,
Yeah,
it's perfect. They can
yeah,
deliver it so well and so straight, like an arrow,
yeah,
that once it lands, it will hurt. Yeah, it hurts.
yeah.
Uh, and that's one thing I think is lacking a bit in British boxing, kind of a bit, is we see a lot of guys coming up either from the Olympic team or the amateur system, and we're not seeing a lot of guys turning their punches over. They're not really getting into it, which is quite, bad, because in pro boxing, if you've got a punch, you should be able to use it and you should be able to deliver it so that it helps you, because you've got a lot of guys who aren't able to turn over their punches, and then they struggle to get through fights because they haven't got that pop in them. But Junto, man, that guy's a beast. I put pictures up of him because obviously pictures in online. I put it in the group chat where he was standing next to Terence Crawford. They look the same size. And that's deep. Terence Crawford normally fights at welterweight. This guy's fighting at super flyweight. This guy's fighting at bantamweight.
Bantamweight, yeah.
This guy genuinely, I'm not even like,
It's like 6 weight classes below.
Bro, he could go to 130 and easily knock guys out in that division. He could legitimately become a 6th division champion within the next 3 to 4 years. Like, this is the guy that could replicate similar to what Pacquiao and Mayweather did in terms of moving up weight classes and beating guys, obviously, because they were like 5, 6, 7, 8 world champions, and he's got that build and that frame to go through these divisions like hot knife through butter, especially with the way he fights. So if you're someone who's not clued up on Junto Nakatani, get clued up, because that guy's going to keep delivering brilliant knockouts, and there are super fights on the horizon. Like, we talked about Bam Rodriguez, right? And everyone's talking about Bam versus Inoue. Yo, Junto's right in the middle of that, yeah? Inoue's at super bantam, Bam's at super fly, but Junto's right bang in the middle at bantam. If you make Junto versus Bam, honestly, I think that's a hell style for Bam Rodriguez, because Junto Nakatani's got good footwork, and he knows how to keep it long. He can fight long, and once he gets that left hand down the middle, I don't think Bam will be able to get out of range quick enough. And I think it's gonna be a hell style for him. I even said when Junto was at flyweight, if he fought Sonny Edwards, he ends Sonny Edwards' career right there and then. Sonny Edwards wouldn't fight ever. No shade to Sonny, not because of that. I just think the damage that he would take from that, because Sonny's a guy, you see him, he's on the back foot, he's always trying to get out of range. But Junto's arms are so long, where even when you think you're normally out of range with other guys, you're not with him, and bang, he's punching through you. So I think the same thing will happen with Bam, where he's used to fighting smaller guys with smaller reach, so he thinks he's out of the way when punches are flying his way.
Junto's quite big for his weight, though, as in like in terms of height and reach.
He's 5'7". Like, he's quite big, and as soon as he punches through, I think, and he catches Bam, I think he puts him down. And he does a real job on him. I think Bam's an elite fighter. I just think stylistically, it's a horrible fight for him. I think a great fight. I think a super fight. I think, and when we're talking about super fight, I think you have at least, I don't know how many, but at least you have more than 50% of Japan watching at least. Junto versus Inoue.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a super fight. That is a insane fight. I think that's very possible, because I can't imagine Inoue jumping up to featherweight that quickly. But I can imagine Junto jumping up to super bantamweight quicker, because he's quite big for the weight. He's a problem. So if you don't know, get to know. And his next fight, I think, should be a unification fight. And I think any other Japanese guy, because remember, all the other champions are also Japanese. So any other champion you put him against, he'll knock them out and he'll become big star, a huge star across Japan. So it's interesting, man. Japanese boxing, you guys gotta get clued up with it. It's always been good, but it's now getting a bit more Western attention because you've got guys coming over, knocking out Western guys, and then going back to Japan. So get clued up because these men are here. These men have always been here, but they're showing the Western guys what's about. But now we'll move on to the big preview this week. So of course you've got Joyce taking on Derek Chisora in a fight that I think initially had some mixed reaction, but now coming towards it, I think kind of people have a bit
warmed up to it a little bit.
Yeah, simmered down, not warmed up, but they kind of simmered down with their protests against it. Joyce obviously coming off that win against stoppage win against Kasha, and Chisora coming off that decision win against Gerald Washington, which was a year ago, which is insane. So you know what, Dapper, I've been talking a lot. Tell me what you think about all of this.
I guess this fight is to sort of see what both fighters have left to give. And at the both of them, I'm more inclined to believe that Joyce has a bit more to give than Chisora. I don't see Chisora being able to compete at high level anymore. So yeah, I think from Chisora's perspective, I think this should be a retirement fight. I know he tweeted a few weeks ago about this being his last O2 fight, which whatever that means, I don't know why he specified O2. I was hoping it just meant his last fight in general, but yeah, I think it might be. It depends what Joyce we get. This could potentially be a bit of a dangerous fight for Chisora, depending on what he's got left, and for Joyce too. I don't know what each guy has left, but I am leaning towards a Joyce win. I do think Joyce beats Chisora, but I don't think either men are going to look good in this fight. I just don't think their styles will complement each other. I think Joyce is quite slow, and Chisora is quite inaccurate with his punches. So I don't know what sort of. I'm hoping it's entertaining, and I'm hoping they both scrap, and we get a few knockdowns or a stoppage or whatever. Obviously, I want everyone to be healthy after the fight, but I am hoping for an entertaining fight. I don't know what both men have left to give, and I don't know if both men can still operate at a high level. And like I said, I think out of the both of them, Joyce is probably the most likely to be able to do that. But he's come off 2 losses versus Zhang, 2 stoppage losses. Second loss was worse than the first one, in my opinion. And then he's looked, he's looked quite mediocre against Cash Ali, but then again, Cash Ali is quite a bit of a spoiler. So I don't know. This is the fight. I guess we get to gauge where both fighters are. Also, as well, we kind of have to remember the sort of run Joyce was on before he got stopped by Zhang, and we know that Zhang is a good fighter. Take away his engine, like he's a very good fighter. So a loss to him is not sort of the end of the world. And I'm trying to factor in that run he was on. He beat Joseph Parker. He's got good wins in there. He's beat Dubois. If he's still at that level he was operating at when he was fighting those guys, I believe this should be a decent win for him. I don't think he should struggle too much. But simultaneously, 2 stoppage losses versus Zhang will have an effect, man. It's two losses. And the second one as well, I keep mentioning it, but the second one was really bad, in my opinion. I think his chin got really cracked. So it's up to Chisora to be able to exploit that if he can. That's another story as well in itself, because like I said, I don't think Chisora is the most accurate puncher. I think he's a bit of a brawler, and his approach to fighting is quite linear, it's quite straightforward. And if Joyce prepares for it properly, he should be able to handle it and be okay. Because once Chisora runs out of an idea, you don't have too much more to worry about. But yeah, that's how I see that fight going. I got Joyce for the win. How about you?
Yeah. So previewing it, I mean, let's look at first Chisora. I guess I think that's the fact. I think that really depends a lot on this fight. Chisora's last fight was a year ago, and he's obviously, he doesn't have a style which requires you to be active, but being in the ring does help, especially with your body and all of that. And also, he's had a career which has entailed him to have a lot of wear and tear. So He is coming into this a bit damaged. He's also, I think people forget, this guy's 40 years old. And while that's not that old, it is like for the heavyweight division. It's not like spectacularly old. It's still quite old, and especially for how long he's been in the game for and what he's been through, it's still relatively quite old. Um, if we look at his fight with Gerald Washington, I thought he was going to lose that, but if we analyze it and he won it. Why did he win it? I think it was mainly to do with the fact that he's got a decent gas tank for about like 4 rounds. After that, he's fighting off of small bursts. He doesn't have anything left in him to fight normally. He's just 4 rounds, make it uncomfortable, and then just keep fighting in bursts, basically. With what's his name? With Washington, he came forward, tried to ball, and he had success. And Washington himself wasn't in great shape and couldn't adjust to it. He was catching Chisora coming in, but he just never he didn't look like he was in great condition himself for that fight either. So that entire fight, if you remember, the whole card was a stinker right until Anthony Joshua got that knockout over Helenius. Like it stunk badly, especially that fight as well. It just stunk towards a decision win for Chisora. And like I said, he's taken a lot of damage in his career that I think he like I said, he's looking for that retirement phase. And I think he's looking for a couple more cash outs and then he's done. Because I think he knows in his head he's taken a lot of damage, and I think he's going to continue to take more damage just until he makes that extra bit of cash that he thinks is enough for him to walk out through the door. With Joyce coming off those 2 back-to-back losses against Zhang, obviously took on Cash Ali. The stupid thing about him, which I don't get what he's doing, is that Cash Ali fight wasn't good. He won the entire fight. He knocked him out at the end and he was winning comfortably. But he never looked like Joe Joyce the killer. Like he looked like any old other heavyweight could beat the crap out of him if they wanted to, especially that performance. The reason I think that is because a big part of it, I think, is because he came in around 286 pounds for that fight, which is quite heavy for him. His fight against Joseph Parker, which is one of his better performances, was 271. Against Dubois was 258. Against Zhang 2, when he put on a lot of weight, was around 280. So I don't get this understanding with him of trying to pack on this extra weight. It doesn't help you. You're already slow enough as it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say
you're already slow enough as it is. Your power's there. You haven't got this type of power where it's like the more you pack on, the more likely you are to get knockouts. You've got George Foreman thudding-esque type power where every time you land it hurts. And that accumulation of punches keeps hurting, and people just don't want to take brain damage, or their body just go, nope, we're not taking any more punches, mate. That just hurts too much. It's like hammers coming down and hitting you. So him not taking it seriously, because that's what I think it is. I just don't think he took Cash Ali seriously, and he just kept the weight on, and he looked very sluggish. Made it a really bad fight, and obviously he got the stoppage at the end. But I just think that was due to Cash Ali just being very poor, and anyone in better shape would have made it through to the end. But with Joe Joyce's style, if we excuse the weight, he's got one of the best engines in the division. Him and Usyk stand apart from everyone else when it comes to engine. He's got great relentless pressure, and his punches hurt. Even though they're slow, they land, and when they land, it fucking hurts. Like it hurts. Like it's not Wilder one punch you're knocked out. It's like I said, clubbing shots to the head that you think you're getting hit by a baseball bat repeatedly again and again and again and again. So I think, if he comes on weight, he'll probably batter Chisora. And I think what's going to happen is early on, Chisora is going to do what he normally does. Come out, guns blazing in the first 4 rounds, throw as many overhands as possible, which will land, because Joyce has that issue where whenever someone throws an overhand right, especially it's coming over the top, he can't adjust and he can't move out of the way for it. So he just lets his chin eat it. Cash Ali was landing a lot of overhand rights. Christian Hammer was landing a lot of overhand rights. And I think Derek Chisora will have no issue landing those overhand rights. And if he somehow, if Joyce's chin isn't the same and he knocks him out, it wouldn't be surprising, because Joyce just doesn't move out of the way of those punches. But I'm not really backing that to happen. What I think is going to happen, he's basically going to try to bum rush him, and then he'll have success. And Joyce is obviously going to land too. But I think early on you'll be like, oh, Derek's kind of winning, but you'll know that Joyce is starting to build back into the fight, start to find Derek, ping his head off, and for the next like 3, 4, 5 rounds, just keep pinging Chisora's head off. And the thing about Chisora, which we've got to give him credit for, got a lot of heart. He'll stay in there. He'll try to fight to his last breath, but I think he'll probably get stopped in under 8 rounds. I think what either happen is either the referee will probably decide at that point, look, it's too one-sided and you're taking a lot of shots, and I don't, like the Tyson Fury fight, the third loss, where the referee literally just stepped in at round 10 and said, look, you're just taking too many punches, you ain't throwing anything back. Or the corner will pull him out, or someone will pull him out, or he'll retire on the stool or something like that. I think he will get battered, and he'll stop him brutally. But the problem is, and I think a lot of people aren't addressing this, some people are, like Barry Jones, for example, so check him out on the Boxing News podcast. It could become a stinker, especially if Joyce becomes very heavy and he becomes even slower. Chisora will be able to move out of the way of some of those punches. He hasn't got the best defense, but if they're that slow, he'll move out of the way. And if you're that sluggish, you're not going to be able to put that many punches together either. And Joyce will win, but he'll probably win a points decision, which will slug. It'll be a sluggish affair, and people will get bored of it and just stinks out the place and doesn't look great. So there is a very large possibility of that. So if I'm someone that's betting or whatever it is on this, or just having an idea of this fight, first look at the weigh-ins. Look at how Joyce really is and what he comes in, or what weight he comes in. If he comes in a decent weight, around 260, 270, he stops Chisora easy. Within 8 rounds, he'll stop him. He comes any heavier, like 286 to 290, he's going to struggle in there. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know where he gets in his head that he needs this extra weight. What I'm hoping is, because he fought in March, I think it was, against it was around Marchish or April against Cash Ali, and he's obviously fighting again in August, that this back-to-back camps is getting him to lose weight, basically. That's what typically happens when a fighter stays active, because they're in back-to-back camps, they lose a bit more weight, obviously. So hopefully with Derek Chisora, with Joyce, that because he's back-to-back, he'll be in a bit more shape, and he'll be in better shape than Chisora, and I think he'll stop him. You back in the stoppage for Joyce?
I completely agree. Depends on his weight. If he's at prime optimal weight, the same shape he was in when he fought Dubois and Parker, I'm backing for stoppage. If he comes in any heavier than that, so Cash Ali-esque, I think he goes 12 rounds in a stinker, in a very frustrating, sluggish, slow, heavyweight affair.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think under 10 rounds. What do you think?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. I think they'll throw a towel or something. I think it'll be one of those. Too many shots.
And hopefully someone will step into from Chisora's corner and his team and tell him, look, you've done enough. Let's call it a day. We need to wait until we can't even spell our own name or say our own name. Like let's call it a day, because it will be a really bad battering if Joyce is really on it, and I don't want to see that. But yeah, so that's the main event, and then on the co-main, I don't know if it's co-main, but just under it, which is the big fight that I think a lot of people want to talk about, Moses Atama versus Marius Wack. This is as opposite-sided in terms of fights as you can get, which meaning you've got a young, very, very young prospect against a very old, experienced heavyweight. Marius Wack is 44 years old. Moses Atama is 19. Marius Wack made his pro debut in 2005. Moses Atama was born in December 2004. Like, this is as opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to age and everything. Like, one guy's literally on the other side of his career, the other one's literally
surprised he's still fighting, man. This is the ultimate gatekeeper.
Yeah, so for Atama, obviously he's been making a lot of waves in British boxing. A lot of people obviously hype on him, and he's been on a lot of big cards and making a lot of statements on there. He's getting quite a lot of knockouts. I think his knockout ratio is around like 78%, which is quite decent. He's obviously made a few waves even before he started boxing professionally, and he's continued to make it. I think they really do believe in Tama, and they think that he could probably become a world champion, which is why they're giving him this fight within his 10th fight. Because while I agree with the fact that probably Wack is 44, so this is probably one of the last few fights, and he'll probably end up looking like a punching bag. Wack is still experienced. He can still make it. He can still get quality.
And he's very durable.
Yeah, he fought Fraser Clark last year, and Fraser won every single round, but he just looked uncomfortable. He just didn't look like a killer in that. So it could be one of those. He'll try to put on one of those performances where you're going to have to start thinking. But with Moses, I mean, he's so fast and spiteful, and that spite he has is like proper instinct. Like that's stuff you can't teach. Like that's stuff you have inside you. And he can put some great stoppages if you look at his highlight reel, because his punches are hard to see coming with how quick he can put them together, his combinations. So, and you can also tell by the way he talks and by the way he fights. Every single fight that he's having, his confidence is increasing again and again and again. And he can stop guys when they're needed to be stopped. The only question that I have on him, which I hope will be answered on Saturday, he fought Dovbishenko and I think Espindola, and those are the only two fights that went the full distance. So 6 rounds and the 4 rounds. He did struggle to open up the opposition then. He was winning every single round, but he did struggle to break them down, and they weren't wilting to his power, and he kind of looked a bit flustered. Not flustered, but like, I can't really come up with any different ideas. I just have to keep doing the same things. So I do wonder if he's been working on his craft to make sure that if a guy like Marius Wack does employ a high guard shell and does to shell up and, you know, fight in bursts, that he can find his openings, he can break him, be a bit more creative with his offense. That is a big question that he needs to answer. And that's something he can get better at by continuing fighting and fighting guys like this. I do expect him to, you know, be the younger, fresher faster fighter, but punch up Wack like a punching bag, and then hopefully he looks a bit better in that fight and is able to break down Wack when he needs to. Obviously, Marius Wack is 44. He's at the end of his career. And I wouldn't be surprised if he hasn't had the same resistance anymore. We have to remember this is a guy that's been in the ring with Dillian White. He's been in the ring with Klitschko. He's been in the ring with Jarrell Miller. He's been in the ring with the top guys of the division. So he's been about and he's faced tough guy. So, but I'm hoping that this is kind of the fight that Itauma does try to put on a statement. And looking at the way his attitude is, you are encouraged. He does want to beat the crap out of guys. He does want to get in there and really make a statement. So I think he will go for the stoppage, and I think I'm pretty confident that he will. I think he will overcome those issues of creativity and be able to figure out a way to stop Marius Wack if he's unable to get the shots that he wants to get. So I'm back in a Moses Itauma stoppage. I'm gonna say within 5 rounds. I think he gets it done within 5 rounds. I think he just sustained beating, finds the shots, and puts him down at least once or twice. Dapo, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he gets it done in 4 rounds or less. Yeah. Marius Wack is known for being a durable gatekeeper, but I do think he's coming towards the tail end of his career, and that durability has somewhat decreased. So I think this is the perfect moment for Itauma to sort of work on his craft a bit, maybe work on those things that, you know, they're trying to sort out in camp, work on those things that they're trying to work out in the gym. And I can see Wack succumbing to Moses' speed. I think it's going to be a speed issue. There's going to be shots that you don't see coming that will put him down, probably stop him. He may not go down, but I think he might get stopped on his feet, for example, and be unable to throw back, and the referee might wave it off. So that's what I can see that happening in less than 4 rounds, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see what we could get with Itauma, especially if he looks the business and he looks the goods here. I feel, you know, you could definitely expect to see him get faster.
A delay or something, I don't know.
Yeah, I think even now he'd beat a guy like Solomon Dakres or, like you said, David Adelaide, even a Johnny Fisher. I think he puts those type of guys out. But they're great fights to make on a domestic level because they get people talking, and you know, they'll get a crowd involved, and then people start to drift more towards the time and realize, yeah, this guy could actually win a world title and actually do something in that division. So it'll be quite
Dylan White AJ type fight. Yeah, before you move on to sort of looking at world championship stuff, elite level fight, whatever, get the domestic clashes in. And there's loads. There's quite a few good British heavyweights, decent level heavyweights. Like you said, you know, we have Johnny Fisher. We've got Adelaide. We've got is it Solomon? What's his name?
Solomon Dakers.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah. So there's a lot to look forward to for him,
Yeah.
especially fights that he could make on a domestic level. I'd even say within the next 6 months, you could pit him against Fraser Clark or Fabio Wardley, and he'd probably end up beating the two. In fact,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
could actually do a job on them. So he's
When are they
someone
having their rematch? Those two?
they're still sorting that out. I think they're gonna have it, but they're still sorting out when to do it.
It was a draw, right? The first fight was a draw.
Yeah. It was a draw. So with Itama, I still need to see whether or not he can win a world title. But he's definitely got potential, especially to knock off a lot of British level talent. So it's just now about him getting through these fights, getting better, and using the time to develop his craft. Because when you're early on in your career, that's the best time you've got to develop your craft. Just keep fighting again and again, working on new things, adding it to your game, and then trying it out on new opponents. And then you just see stuff to get much more better, much more well skilled and crafted in your approach. And he's someone that lacks a lot of senior amateur experience. So here, take your time, develop yourself, and make sure that you're ready for what's about to come when you get to the top level. So that's gonna be interesting to see what he can do, and hopefully he does put on a show, because I think they're going to be hopefully Queensbury are going to be looking at him to be a headliner soon at some point. So. Also on the card, you've got Ryan Garner versus Archie Sharp, two undefeated super featherweight fighters. So make sure you take a look at that fight because that's a really good fight. I watched both of their fights live in May when I went to watch Denzel Bentley's win over Danny Dignam. Big up Denzel. But yeah, so that's a great fight. I think you should watch, and I think they're going to deliver. I think those two are going to deliver a great fight. You've also got Dennis McCann versus Iona Baluta 2. Their first fight was brilliant, and their second fight I think is going to be really good. I think you're going to see Dennis McCann, get this win, and eventually, people start talking about him in terms of European level and at least world. Start to think about world level now for him at super bantamweight, but that's one to look out. You then got also the debut of Adam Hamed on the card. Nassim Hamed's son. So that's going to be interesting, see what he could do with his pro career. As it comes to the sons of pro boxers, it's always interesting to see how and where far they can go. So some people eat eggs, some people turn down paydays against Hamza Shiraz. It's and then other sons of pro boxers who aren't British end up becoming world champions and then losing them because of a cut to the face like Tim Zhu. So which is unfortunate, but obviously. So that'll be interesting. Then you've got US super lightweight prospect Brandon Lee making his Queensbury debut, which is quite interesting because an American fighter signing with Queensbury is not something you always hear. But it's a plan that Queensbury have got to start doing.
Queensbury on the verge of signing with his own.
I think that's later down the line. Yeah, once they'll explore the option, and then they're going to plan to do a lot of not a lot, but a few American shows. So they've started to sign a lot of international talent like Cubans and Americans because they're going to start to build cards with them over in the States. So Brandon Lee's someone to watch for because he was Ring prospect of the year. He hasn't really delivered in terms of if you watch his fights, Brandon Lee, you're not sure where he could go in his career. Could he win a world title? I wouldn't back it, to be fair, but he is 28-0, so you never know. He could find his way to a world title challenge at least, and he's only 24, 25, so still a lot to come from him. So I'll be interested to see what he does on the Joyce Chisora card. So, sorry, it's an interesting card. I'd check it out if I would. And also, some fights are going on this week. You've got Otto Volin fighting this week as well on a Friday.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, on a random Friday card. So
who's he fighting? Anyone of note?
No. Like I said, that's why I said it's a random Friday. It's a random Friday card. I have no
clue. Why?
Yeah. I don't think that fight's ever going to happen. I think Dylan's looking for another payday.
Fair enough.
You've also got Dapo's favorite boxer, Clarissa Shields, making a return. So, she's fighting at heavyweight, which is insane. I don't know.
They're all female heavyweights?
They're 185 pounds. So, I mean, so one of them was a world champion. She was at 230. She was hefty. So there's that.
The black lady.
No. She was Mexican, I think. But then you've got those fights. But then obviously next weekend we'll have the August 3rd Crawford versus Madrigal, and that's going to be a big.
That's a good fight.
Yeah, so we're going to be here for a while when we preview that because there's loads of fights to get through. Like, but
Madrig's taking that fight away.
You've also got then Isaac Cruz versus Valenzuela. Then you've got Bacoli versus Anderson. You've got Miller versus Ruiz. You've got David Morrell on the undercard. You've got Andy Cruz on the undercard. So there's so much to go through for next week. So we'll be back with a brilliant breakdown of all of those fights as well. So there's gonna be a lot to get through. But this week, hopefully the fights deliver, especially British boxing. I think the good thing about the timing of this Joyce Chisora fight is that there's nothing else going on. There's no football. Yeah. There are Olympics, so if you are watching Olympics, but Olympics still hasn't. 1 second. Sorry. The Olympics is starting this week, but it's not going to gear up until another couple days because obviously everyone kind of watches the main stuff, which is like a week in or a week or two into it. So it's a good chance for Joyce Chisora to take the stage and really put a showing on and try to put back a bit of a pep in the step of British boxing, especially with Derek Chisora. He's going to bring a lot of casual eyes into it because people know who Derek Chisora is. So hopefully that delivers, man, and I can't wait to watch it. It'll be a brilliant fight, and I hope you guys have a good weekend of fights. If you're watching all of them, if you're not watching none of them, you're catching the highlights. Hope highlights deliver. And we'll see you this week, hopefully, to preview next week's Bud Crawford Madrimov card. So make sure, as always, click subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, share this with people that you know love boxing. And also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, please give us 5 stars. And we'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.